1. Context. I was about 22 when this happened. Worked at a bar where there was always only one worker. Bartending, running tables, cleaning, etc., simply everything. And where the majority of the revenue was from a small group of regulars. Among those regulars was this girl, Karen. Not much older than me, maybe 25, definitely not more than 26. Also, Karen used to work there before me until the bar owner fired her, and no one liked her. Not as a worker, nor as a customer, fellow regular. From what I observed, Karen always ordered 1 beer, 1 shot, and then sat there for 3 hours. Anyway, during the couple of months before this happened, the other regulars told me Karen used to work there as well, which I didn't know until then, and that when they saw her from the outside, they decided not to come in and just go elsewhere. Apparently, Karen used to bring new beers without anyone ordering them. She used to charge full price for half beers, etc., etc. Too much stuff to contain everything. Anyway, everyone hated her. Now cut to one day when I was working. It was a Sunday, so opening hours were even shorter than the rest of the week. We closed at midnight. It's like 12:15, maybe. I still had a small group of people in, because they were nice, didn't bother me, and I needed to do a whole bunch of stuff before I could leave. So, I'm counting the day's revenue, cleaning, closing the bar, etc., and look who's coming in. Karen, already drunk, walking directly to the bar counter asking for a beer. Can't draw you a glass anymore, I've closed the tap. Know that closing the tap means to run clear water through the mileage of all the pipes, depreciating whatever beer's left in them, and then partially disassembling the tap.
Open it then.
That would mean reassembling the tap, running beers through the pipes again, which would then mean I'd need to close it again and depreciate the beer that's in the pipes. Just because of her 1 glass. Not gonna do that.
But I want a glass of beer.
Come sooner next time, the bar's closed. She's now running towards the fridge.
Okay, so I'll have a can then.
She opens the fridge, takes a can out, and puts it on the counter, starting to look for money in her purse. That's not gonna happen either. I've counted the revenue.
It's 1 beer.
Come during opening hours and you can have whatever you want. As for today, the bar's closed. I took the can, put it back in the fridge. Karen opens the fridge, takes the can, throws coins at me, turns around and starts walking toward the exit. Stop right where you are. I ran in front of her and stopped her from leaving. Give me the beer.
I paid for it.
I snapped the can out of her hands. Pick your coins from wherever you threw it. The beer isn't leaving this bar. Karen then starts yelling at me for not respecting her title of a former employee, that she can do whatever she wants, and she wants the beer and won't leave without it, and I can't legally refuse to serve her, which I 100% could. Keep in mind, it's not only me and her, but there's still a group of like 3 people about to peacefully finish their beers. I told Karen to leave immediately, otherwise police will be called to escort her by force. She refused. So I did the only logical thing I could. Picked up my phone and called the police. Remember, it's after midnight already, maybe 12:20 or something. Anyway, explained the situation, repeated the sentence Karen said during my call. Now I'm going to wait here just for the sake of you not looking stupid in front of the police. And waited for them to arrive. Now, I don't normally seek revenge, but at this point I not only wanted her to leave, I wanted her to be in pain. So I let the other 3 people leave as they finished their beers, and I locked the door. So Karen couldn't leave before the cops arrived. Well, they arrived, asked a couple of questions, wanted to see our ID cards, which I showed. Karen didn't, as she didn't have it on her, etc., the normal routine. But then Karen started crying, claiming I refused to give her the beer she paid for and other BS, which I promptly explained. So how did this all end? They told her to leave and come sooner next time, to which she said something like, "No, I want my beer now," or something. So they tried a second time, and as it had no better result, they escorted her to their car and took her with them. That's where the story ended for me until like 2 or 3 weeks later. I was told by the other regulars that had met her, and she told them. I called the police on her, and they made her stay at the station during the night and the whole following day. while she had nothing with her except her tiny purse with some coins and almost dead phone without a charger. In my mind, the fact that she had to come with them to the station and then get back home on her own was great enough, but the fact she had to stay there for something like 20 hours without her phone and nothing to ease her hangover, that made my week. 2. So I have a small group of friends that have been my best friends for over a decade, but one member and I, Chelsea, always had some tension. But we were there for each other when it counted, so I could always look past the stupid shit like her immaturity and her odd paranoia when it came to any of us hanging out without her. She was convinced that if we spent time without her there, we spent the entire gathering talking bad about her. Which made little sense, because when we had something to say about her, we just told her, but I digress. In March 2021, I got engaged to my partner of 6 years, and of course, I asked my 3 best friends to be in my bridal party, including Chelsea. And we began the excited discussion of what I wanted my wedding to look like and what bridal party attire will be. And I look at Chelsea and say, I plan to have my bridesmaids in floor-length dark red gowns, but you guys can pick whatever neckline you're comfortable with and whatever type of sleeves you want. If you want them, is that okay? I know you don't really do dresses.
No, that's fine. I actually love dresses, but I don't own any currently is all, so I can't wear them.
Oh, okay, cool. And we move along. So fast forward to February 2022. Well, one day, she and I are hanging out at my house with my best friend, who happened to be Chelsea's significant other. That was how Chelsea and I had become friends in the first place. And now, years later, Chelsea's significant other was my matron of honor, and Chelsea was a bridesmaid. And we started talking about the wedding, and my best friend asked what they'd be wearing. Well, you'll be in a suit, but it'll be black with red and silver accents, like what we talked about a year ago. Not sure about the tiny details, but you'll be in black because I want you to stand out as matron of honor. And Mike, my other best friend, is going to be in a red suit, the same color as the bridesmaid dresses.
And me too.
My best friend said, you too what?
I'm going to be in a red suit.
No, remember, all the bridesmaids are going to be in long red gowns. We talked about this when I first asked you.
No, I'm going to be in a suit.
Chelsea, my best friend said.
Best friend?
You're wearing a dress, remember?
Maybe I'm not comfortable wearing a dress anymore.
When did this change, we asked.
You know what, I'm not arguing with you about this. You don't even have a date yet.
That has nothing to do with any of this. I've said over and over I want my bridesmaids in red long gowns for over a year now. What the hell? Chelsea gets up and goes into the bathroom and stays there for almost 45 minutes, then comes out when it's time to leave. So, later that night, I messaged Chelsea privately to talk this out with her. I told her we'd agreed on these gowns and is what I wanted on my wedding day. This started a huge argument where Chelsea told me that it was a double standard to let my best friend wear a suit and not Chelsea. How it was hurtful I'd force her to wear a dress when she hates them. And then she hit me with, so let me ask you this, if I was trans or mask presenting, would you force me to wear a dress then? If you were trans or mask presenting, I wouldn't have asked you to be a bridesmaid at all. If anything, I'd ask fiancé if you would be a groomsman. And my logic for that was that calling a trans man a bridesmaid would be disrespectful. At least, that's how I feel personally. And for the record, we asked Chelsea if she was questioning her gender identity or if she was actually trans, and she told us a resounding no. She was a solidly cisgendered woman. Therefore, she was trying to use the struggles of trans people to make me think I was being horrible and guilt me into giving her her own way. She got even more angry, that I would make an exception for that but not for her, and that my asking her to wear a dress was the same thing as saying I hate Chick-fil-A's homophobic practices, but giving them money anyway because the chicken tastes good. To which I responded, I'm gonna make the argument that they are nothing alike, and one is objectively worse because one is funding a company who wants to eradicate an entire community of people because of who they love, and the other is saying, I would like you to wear a dress if you want to be in my bridal party, and if you refuse, that's okay, but you'll be a guest instead. I still want you there and in my photos and stuff, so yeah. We went back and forth, and I continued to tell her that I'm allowed to want what I want for my wedding, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that if she didn't want to abide by the dress code, then I understood and that's okay, but that will mean she will be a guest at my wedding. She's still wanted and welcome, and she will be front row and in my photos. And then she told me, well, I thought you understanding would mean that what I want and my comfort level would mean more to you than what you deem acceptable attire at your wedding. At that point, I had told her that she could let me know what she decided. Either she was a bridesmaid or she wasn't, but regardless, I love her and I wanted to squash this so we could move on. And her response was, you really don't want me to make a decision with this current headspace I'm in. So I told her I don't see why not. Your options are wear a dress and stand up at a wedding, or wear whatever you want and be an honored guest. The choice isn't wear the dress or we aren't friends anymore. I almost typed, and I don't appreciate the thinly veiled threat that it is. But I know that would just drag this out and I wanted it over. And she said, if you change your mind, you know where I am. Or something equally non-committal to making a decision. So I told her that I will accept this as I appreciate the offer, but I won't be a bridesmaid and will instead be a guest, and now we could move on. I left it at that, and we seemingly moved on, and honestly, full disclosure, had Chelsea come to me and said, hey, about the dress thing, I'm not going to be comfortable in a dress anymore. Could we explore other options for my bridal party attire, like a suit? I would have said yes, because it was approached respectfully. But she decided to try to convince me I was actually transphobic, and as bad as people who wanted an LGBTQ genocide to occur because she wasn't getting her way and wanted to guilt me into giving her her way. So no. Update. We originally had a date, November 1st, 2023, but we decided to wait until after we got out of debt and got more financially stable. So it's still November 1st, but the year is not set in stone yet. We are currently still not married because we decided buying a house was more important than a wedding, but we still fully plan to have one, and my fiancé actually wants a fancy wedding just as much as I do. So we're both willing to wait. Chelsea knew we had a date and knew we had decided to wait for the above reasons after a while. Anyway, in 2021, I lost my grandmother, who was one of the most important people in my life. Then, less than a year later, I lost my grandfather. I lost a couple of cousins and an uncle, and my niece, whom I helped raise and love as my own child, ended up in and out of mental facilities for self-harm and suicidal behavior. So I was perpetually mourning and depressed for like 2 years straight. His cycle hasn't ended to this day. A couple of months ago, I lost a good friend to a heart condition. It's been a lot. Chelsea decided to ask my best friend for a divorce, and that resulted in a novella of lying, gaslighting, and manipulation that ended up affecting all of us because Chelsea left my best friend, then got back with her, started arguments with my best friend over me, accused them and I of having an affair, and her recording a private conversation we had, so she could play it for friends of hers who did not like me, and who I also don't like because said friend was kind to my face, then mocked my relationship, my partner, a medical condition I have, and most recently my job behind my back. That friend is also a narcissist. Oh, and she flew to another state to spend days with another woman and lie to all of us about it. To which she says that she and the woman are just friends, so it wasn't an affair. Those were the final straws for me. I was already spiraling downward mentally. My fiancé even told me he had been worried I was going to hurt myself because I was getting so bad. I ended our friendship. After I did, she admitted to my other best friend she knew I'd never had an affair with her wife. She just said it to hurt us, essentially, because we had accused her of having one, with the woman she had lied about flying to another state to spend time with in secret. My best friend and Chelsea are no longer together. In all honesty, I started seeing a change in her in 2019, 2020, a change I didn't like. But when my grandma died in June 2021, I stopped caring because I needed my friend's support just to keep living. It's 2023, and I still have crying fits over my grandmother because we were that close. So this loss was profound, and dealing with Chelsea's drama on top of everything else was not something I could do. I would like to add that Chelsea had good qualities, like any person. She can be kind and caring, and at one point, she was absolutely a wonderful friend. I can't say why she changed for certain, as she refused to speak to me after she left my best friend. There are, of course, details about her and my best friend I've glossed over, or left out because those are their stories. But this is pretty strictly just experiences pertaining to me, and what I experienced specifically. Best friend is doing better, and while I'm still dealing with things, my fiancé and I couldn't love each other more if we tried, and my best friend and I are as close as ever. We are very supportive of each other during our current mental and physical health journeys, and my best friend is looking forward to my wedding, whenever it takes place. 3. So I take the bus with my grandmother to help, since she can't read the bus numbers, but she knows where she's going. She has a very good sense of direction for her age. I just tell her where the stop is located, and she sees the city bus colors and just asks the driver what number bus they are. She isn't blind, however, her vision is very bad. One morning, we were taking the bus to go to a Walmart to get some groceries. When we get on the bus, we both sit at the disabled spot at the beginning. My grandmother has trouble walking or standing, and must exit at the front of the bus, where it goes down. We sit where it's 2 disabled seats, so we take them up. 2 stops going by and a lady comes on. I should note the bus was pretty full as we were nearing the plaza. She walks over with her bags, and I see another woman behind her. I go back to looking through the window. She stops in front of me, and all I hear is a snap. I turn my head to her. "Dear, you need to move. I need the seats for me and my daughter." "I can move, but only 1 seat will be available." "Well, you both need to move." "No, I don't mind moving because I can stand, but my grandmother isn't because she can't." I then proceed to stand up, and I move to in front of my grandma so I'm still close. I knew I might have to give my seat up if this happened, but I don't care since I can stand for the 15 minutes on the bus. "My daughter needs the other seat." "I'm sorry, my grandmother isn't moving. She needs the seat." "I don't have good legs. I had knee surgery," says my grandmother. "Just move." The lady throws herself on the seat next to my grandmother and almost hits her with her purse. She's not moving, period. The lady let out this big huff. I don't get why. Her daughter looked just as annoyed, and I don't want to call them entitled, but it feels like it. "I have bad legs too, so I have to sit down." "No offense, but I don't care. You can wait till we're off the bus and have the seat, or wait for someone else to get up." "No, I want it now." At this point, she kept yelling, but I ignored her, realizing it wasn't going anywhere. They never tried anything violent, but she kept making noise the whole 15 minutes. I got off the bus with my grandma, and that was the end of it. I would have smacked them if they laid a hand on her. And just so we're clear, I'm not stating that young people cannot have a disability. The point of posting was more a rant that she expected my grandmother to give up the seat. We would have had a different conversation had it just been me alone. If I was alone, I would have just ignored them and dropped it because I didn't care. It's my grandma I argued with them for, if that makes sense. 4. I'll never wrap my mind around why signing into your computer is such an inconvenience for some people. This encompasses 3 jobs, the same issue across the board. Job 1, the hospital. In the beginning, God created inactivity timers that were set to 5 minutes, and it was good. These timers were deployed across the entire organization, no exceptions. Even at 5 minutes, this can still be a high-risk traffic area. However, since doctors run hospitals, they get to complain about anything and everything. You'd think the doctors working in a hospital could grasp the concept of confidentiality, right? Wrong. After being so inconvenienced by having to sign into their computer with their weak-ass 8-character password after they walked away from their computers, all of the doctors and some nurse managers banded together to demand that the inactivity timers be removed from the computers, or else they were all quitting. Now, this isn't just a small hospital either. It's a health network with 7,300 plus employees, a level 1 trauma center, 70 plus clinics, etc. Obviously, for HIPAA compliance, we must have something, so the compromise was an hour on the inactivity timer, an hour. At that point, it might as well be gone anyway. Job 2, the city. Fast forward a couple of years, I am now working for a local municipality. Small workforce, about 150 people. Zero inactivity timer whatsoever, because people are so inconvenienced. One guy running IT, and he doesn't like to rock the boat. I come in, I suggest it, I get the, "Well, we tried that once, but everyone complained." Fine, whatever. I still take issue with this because employees are still handling PII, especially law enforcement utilities. HR is handling HIPAA information, and there's obviously things that haven't been publicly disclosed yet. Finally, an IT contractor tells the manager the same thing I said, and he goes, "Okay, we'll try it again." Our philosophy was that 2 minutes is a long time to not move your mouse, so we set it to 2 minutes. It's worth noting that this change was approved by the city manager and all department heads. Instantly, calls and emails flood in about, "Why is my computer locking out?" and "This is hindering my work." We respond with, "This is just going to have to be something we learn to live with. It's been approved by the city manager." Well, then the city manager turns around and goes, "Okay, 2's too low, set it to 5. "Yeah, you're probably right. Seems pretty low. We'll set it higher." "Oh wait, this person is super inconvenienced at 5 minutes. Make it 10. "Oh wait, this person is still super inconvenienced. Turn it off just for them. Oh, and this person, and this person." At the time I left, we had a standard 5-minute GPO, a 10-minute GPO, a no timeout GPO that was originally intended for video boards, but had like 20 people in it. Job 3, the clinic. Back to medical world I went, this time doing contract work on the side for a local clinic. They wanted me to redeploy everything, new server, new computers, new everything. Part of that was setting up a domain, so I oblige, and tell them that there's going to have to be a 5-minute inactivity timer for HIPAA. Originally it's cool, then like everyone else it's a problem. "It's just so inconvenient, can't we just remove it?" "Nah, you wanted to be compliant, you're compliant now." "Well, just remove it for these people, because they don't access health info." "They still access PII and manage your money, but whatever. Here, sign this form releasing me from liability when you get audited and you're found out of compliance." This one's still an ongoing situation. The complaints seem to always be the same. "It's really hindering our work. It's slowing me down." "I don't like it too." "I didn't have to do this at my last job." "I get up to go do something, and then I have to sign back in, all over again." Here's my take. I have a 20-plus character password that I have to enter almost 100 times a day. I have zero fucking sympathy for you. Not only that, it's not slowing you down that much. You have to spend an extra 5 seconds signing in. Big deal. Also, if you're getting up to go do something, you need to lock it anyway. But even if you're not going to, you're not spending 5 minutes going to grab a piece of paper from the printer. You're going to the bathroom, getting a snack, checking your phone, gabbing it up with your coworkers, or in rare cases, you're doing another function of your job. But through all of that, you're not working at your computer, so your computer should be locked. "But I need it unlocked at all times." No, you fucking don't. I don't give a rat's ass what argument you think you have is wrong. Anyone else have to put up with this shit? I totally agree that it shouldn't be cumbersome, but to the people thinking it's my business, you're just there to make it work, we're also the ones who clean up your network intrusions, DLP circumvention, and confidentiality breaches, which usually come down to, how did IT let this happen? That gives us every right to demand you implement certain preventative measures. An inactivity timer is not the end of the world. 5. Note, these events are based on a true story, but they have been tweaked for storytelling, dramatic effect, and protecting the identities of the guilty. I work at big data. Honestly, I think we have a bit of an addiction. If there is data, we want it. Data from the street? Sure. 5-second rule and all that. Primo, triple, filtered, mineral-infused data from the broker? Oh, you bet we're swiping the company credit card. Data from the dumpster? If it can be hosed down and repackaged, then heck yeah. Is it useful? Don't know, but the more we have, the happier the execs seem to be. I think we should stage an intervention, but keeping them happy with their data lake delusions also leaves me free to focus on my actual job. This time, my actual job is working on an industry project. We've been surveying building security and compliance protocols across multiple companies. One of the key metrics we're measuring is compliance against our recommended benchmark for building security. For my portion of the report, I am processing employee badge data across each company that's part of the survey. We can use this data to analyze several behaviors, such as looking at office utilization ratios, seeing who's accessing areas at unusual times, and how many people use communal areas, or understanding how people move throughout the workplace during the day. As one can imagine, this is fairly intimate data that can reveal many things from broad employee habits and preferences to weaknesses in operational security. I won't bore you with the soul-crushing process of getting all the data into a common format, but after cleaning, conforming, and transforming the raw data, it's encoded as a differentially private dataset. Essentially, we slightly change everyone's data such that it's still accurate in terms of the overall trend, but you can't use the data to learn anything about a single person or company. The differentially private dataset is basically the impossible burger of data. It looks like the original dataset, it tastes like the original dataset, but none of the original data is in the differential dataset, so it's considered anonymized. The report writing department then uses this data to prepare an aggregated report about broad industry trends and findings. As is the case with any project, there was a design phase with multiple meetings, design documents, and sign-offs from legal. Sitting through all of this was our very own Nick Bottom. Mr. Bottom was not there, as I had surmised, to participate in the industry report. He was in charge of his own project to generate reports on building security and usage for individual clients. He intended to reuse our badge data for his report. While this was fine from a resource efficiency standpoint, he never brought up his report during the planning phase of our report. He only asked for a copy of our data when we were done. This will become important later. With our project sign-offs in hand, work proceeded, and we were about 3 months in. A chat popped up from Mr. Bottom. He wished us to kindly give him access to the report so he could share it out. The clients were growing impatient and wondering when the reports would arrive. He was insistent on talking to us, which was confusing because the data engineering team were not responsible for the final report. That's the report writing team. As we met him in the meeting room, we discovered the full scope of Mr. Bottom's needs, as well as his gross misunderstanding of the work we were doing. In addition to receiving our industry trends report, a subset of the clients who had contributed to the anonymous badge data study were promised a de-anonymized report on their own building security and usage patterns using the data we had already collected from them. In truth, the ask was quite doable, or it would have been if this wasn't our first time hearing about it. Our dear Bottom had managed to sit through hours of planning, review, and sign-off without realizing that he could not use our data for his report. Even though our differential data looked right, it wouldn't match any of the customer locations or employee records. Moreover, we could not provide the original data because the contracts we had signed explicitly required the data to be anonymized before any analysis or reporting took place. Mr. Bottom seemed to have difficulty grasping the concept of differential privacy, particularly that even though the data was there and he could see it, he couldn't use it for his report. He also seemed to have difficulty understanding that our contractual obligations regarding data handling could not be waived with a simple email of approval from the customers, or even that my team wasn't the one writing the final report. Following our meeting with Mr. Bottom, I regrouped with my co-workers to figure out how to stop this mess before it grew any larger. We agreed amongst ourselves that since we already had the raw data and the analysis rubric, we could run the analysis on the original data for the select customers, loop the report writing team, and hold the finished reports in escrow until our contacts in legal amended the contracts. It wasn't totally by the book, but we needed to come up with a way to get things moving, not point fingers. Unfortunately, Mr. Bottom had come to the opposite realization. Hardly an hour had passed from our meeting when he raised serious concerns about a gap in the incomplete and insufficient specifications of our work to management. Not only did this instantly evaporate any remaining goodwill on our part, but since management was now involved, formal meetings and processes had to be observed, and we lost all autonomy to get things moving. We narrowly avoided getting in trouble for failing to anticipate business needs. Our saving grace was that not only did our boss have our back, but Nick Bottom was found to have been inexcusably negligent in communicating with the rest of the business team as well. As it turned out, since Mr. Bottom had assumed he could piggyback his report off ours, he had neglected to follow almost all the proper procedures for project planning and creation, including involving legal. Remember the contracts? The sad thing is, we had already done 95% of background work needed for his report while working on our own. If he had been upfront with us during the planning process, we could have easily added on a few weeks to our schedule to run the data for his reports, and worked with the report team to write it up. Instead, the whole clunky internal process involving multiple teams had to be coordinated to get his report planned and approved on its own. As for our original task, we did deliver our report on industry trends, albeit a couple of months late. The customers still await their individual reports. It's been half a year, and they'll probably wait longer yet. I haven't spoken with Mr. Bottom since. However, I'll throw a project update email every now and then with my boss CC'd. As for our execs, they remain blissfully unaware of the ongoings of their lessers, and continue to dance around the data lake. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 122. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do pop the like button. Okay, if you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, you can support me through Patreon, which is linked in the description. You can do that for as little or as much as you like per month, and you get the videos a little bit earlier. You can also buy Hellfreezer merchandise, which is also linked in the description, and if month to month doesn't appeal to you, you can make one-off donations during any video or stream. It's not required, but it is appreciated and helps me stay hydrated. Alrighty, let's see. No other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is there a foodstuff, a garnish, a condiment or something that you really like, but you often forget how much you like it? I'm saying this specifically because I'm recently appreciating just how much I like Dijon mustard. And I've always got a jar there, but I mostly buy it for when I'm cooking with things. And I often forget I can literally put this on sandwiches while I'm making them, and it makes the sandwiches so much better. So that's mine, and I'm essentially using Dijon mustard in any sandwich I can right now. At least savory sandwich. I'm not putting like peanut butter, mustard, and Nutella with banana. That would be nasty. Actually, I'm kind of curious as to what that would taste like now. No, I'm not going to do it. I'll be strong. But please do let me know some of your suggestions in a comment below. With that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.